Alex Foster hunched over his console at NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Facility, rubbing tired eyes. For 3 straight days, he had analyzed the strange signal detected from beyond Pluto's orbit. The pattern was unlike anything in their database. Not random cosmic noise, not pulsar emissions, definitely artificial. Still at it, Lieutenant. Lisa Martinez appeared beside him, coffee in hand. The military captain had been assigned to the project last week, though Alex wasn't entirely sure why the Army suddenly cared about his department's work. This isn't just another false positive, Captain. Alex pointed to the repeating sequence on his screen. These patterns follow mathematical principles. Someone sent this message. Lisa leaned closer. You mean we finally found aliens? I mean aliens finally found us. Alex pulled up another window showing signal trajectory data. This wasn't broadcast in all directions. It was aimed specifically at our solar system. The news spread through the facility like wildfire. Within hours, the director called an emergency meeting with department heads and government officials joining remotely. Alex found himself presenting to grim-faced people whose names were classified. The transmission contains multiple layers, Alex explained. We've partially decoded the outer layer, which appears to be a universal translation primer. Based on mathematical constants and atomic structure references, we believe it's designed to teach the recipient how to understand the main message. And what is the main message? Asked the NASA director. Alex shared a nervous glance with Lisa. We're still working on that, but preliminary results suggest it's a warning. A warning about what? Something called the void. We don't have enough context yet, but the message conveys urgency. Over the next several weeks, linguists and cryptographers worked around the clock. Alex barely left the facility, sleeping on a cot in his office. Lisa became a constant presence, coordinating with military intelligence and bringing him sandwiches when he forgot to eat. The breakthrough came at 3:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. Alex jolted awake at his desk as his algorithm finally processed the core message. Lisa, he shouted into his phone. Get back here now. By sunrise, the president had been briefed. By noon, an emergency session of the United Nations was called. Alex stood before the assembled world leaders, his discovery projected behind him. The message was sent approximately 50 years ago, from a star system 47 light-years away. It warns of an entity or species known as the void that has been moving through the galaxy, consuming everything in its path. Murmurs filled the chamber as Alex continued. According to the translation, the void isn't like any life form we understand. It absorbs energy, all energy in any form. Stars, radiation, electricity, even the biological energy of living beings. Planets in its path are left as cold, lifeless husks. Are we certain this isn't some kind of hoax? Asked the German representative. Lisa stepped forward. Military satellites have confirmed the signal's deep space origin. This is real. The Chinese delegate leaned forward. How long do we have? Alex swallowed hard. The message was sent 50 years ago, warning that the void would reach the sender's planet within a decade. Their final transmission included coordinates of the void's projected path. He pulled up a star chart showing a dark line cutting through dozens of star systems, ending at the edge of their local stellar neighborhood. Based on its last known trajectory and speed, the void could reach our solar system within 15 years, possibly sooner. The room erupted in angry shouts and fearful questions. Nations that had been enemies for generations suddenly faced a common threat beyond imagination. As arguments about verification and response strategies filled the chamber, Alex studied the final piece of the message. The aliens had included histories of other civilizations that had encountered the void. None had survived. Most had detected it too late. Some had tried to flee. Others had fought. All had fallen. There's one more thing, Alex said quietly, but something in his tone silenced the room. The message ends with data about the void's energy consumption rate. I've been analyzing it with our physicists. He looked up, meeting the eyes of humanity's leaders. It's accelerating. 5 years had passed since the warning. Earth had changed more in those years than in the previous century. Nations once pointing weapons at each other now shared technology and resources under the Global Defense Initiative. Space stations orbited every planet in the solar system. Fleets of warships patrolled the void between worlds. Commander Jack Wilson stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, humanity's first true warship. The massive vessel represented the pinnacle of Earth's desperate technological leap forward. Approaching Jupiter's orbit, Commander, reported First Officer Maya Chen, her fingers dancing across the navigation console. Jack nodded. Maintain course for the outer system patrol route. Maya glanced up at him. This is the 7th patrol this month. You really think we'll find anything? Better to be paranoid than extinct, Jack replied. The ship's engines hummed beneath his feet as they accelerated past Jupiter's massive red storm. 3 hours later, alarms blared across the bridge. Unidentified object at the edge of Neptune's orbit, Maya announced, her voice steady despite the tension. Moving on an irregular path. Definitely not one of ours. Jack's heart hammered in his chest. After years of waiting, was this finally it? Battle stations. Charge all weapons. The Defiant's crew moved with practiced efficiency as they approached the mysterious object. The main screen showed a damaged vessel, roughly twice the size of their own, drifting erratically. No energy signatures matching the void's profile, reported the science officer. Actually, I'm detecting life signs. Faint but present. Jack exhaled slowly. First contact, then open a channel. After 10 minutes of broadcasting greetings with no response, Jack made his decision. Prepare a boarding party, full environmental suits and armed escorts. Maya led the team across to the alien vessel. Jack watched their helmet cameras from the bridge, holding his breath as they navigated twisted corridors of unfamiliar metal alloys and strange curved architecture. Commander, Maya's voice crackled through the comm. You need to see this. She stood in what appeared to be the ship's bridge. A slender figure lay slumped over a console. The alien skin was pale blue, with a ridge of small fins running along its elongated head. 4 arms ended in 7-fingered hands. It's still alive, Maya reported, but barely. Within hours, the alien was in the Defiant's medical bay. Earth's scientists had learned much about exobiology in their crash preparation programs, allowing the ship's doctor to stabilize the visitor. When the alien finally regained consciousness, it stared at the humans with large, multifaceted eyes. You are Earthborn, it asked in a melodic voice, speaking through a translation device it wore as jewelry. Yes, Jack answered. I'm Commander Wilson of the United Earth ship Defiant. The alien attempted to rise but fell back weakly. I am Ambassador Zalthan of the Galactic Conclave. I came seeking your world, though I feared I would not survive the journey. The Conclave? Maya asked. There's an alliance of species out there. Over 30 spacefaring civilizations spanning this spiral arm, Zalthan confirmed, though many have already fallen to the void. Jack leaned forward. Then you know about the threat. It is why I came. The alien's eyes dimmed slightly. The Conclave received your world's broadcasts decades ago, but deemed your species too primitive to contact. When sensors detected your sudden technological advancement, I was sent to investigate. Jack felt a surge of pride. We received a warning 5 years ago. We've been preparing ever since. Zalthan's eyes widened. 5 years? Impossible. Most species require centuries to achieve what I see on this vessel. We work well under pressure, Maya said with a grim smile. The ambassador studied the humans with new interest. Perhaps that is why the ancient prophecies speak of the final flame that will challenge the darkness. Jack frowned. We don't put much stock in prophecies, Ambassador. We believe in action. As well you should. Zalthan's voice grew urgent. The void has changed course. It senses your world's energy. It hungers for it. How long do we have? Jack asked. 1 Earth year, perhaps less. Olivia Reyes had never expected to represent Earth at an alien gathering. Yet here she stood on the sweeping observation deck of the conclave station, gazing at stars that looked different from this part of the galaxy. Beside her, Major Ben Garcia surveyed the assembled aliens with a soldier's careful eye. "Remember the briefing," Ben whispered. "The tall ones with 4 arms are the Zalfar. The floating jellyfish creatures are Meldari. The ones that look like walking tree trunks are the Vosh." Olivia finished. "I know. Ambassador Zalthan prepared us well." The emergency session of the Galactic Conclave had been called specifically to address the Void's approach toward Earth. Representatives from 27 species filled the vast chamber, their murmurs and clicks and whistles creating a symphony of nervous tension. A slender insectoid being tapped a crystal staff against the floor. The universal translators in Olivia's ear implant converted the resulting sounds into English. "The Emergency Council recognizes Earth's representatives," announced the insectoid. "You may address the assembly." Olivia stepped forward, feeling the weight of 7 billion humans on her shoulders. "Thank you, High Counselor. Earth appreciates the Conclave's willingness to hear us despite our species' newcomer status." She activated her data pad, projecting images of Earth's defensive preparations into the chamber center. "In the 5 years since we received warning of the Void, humanity has united as never before. We've built ships, weapons, and defensive systems based on what limited information we had." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. A massive, turtle-like alien spoke next. Impressive for such a young species, but ultimately futile. "The Void cannot be defeated. The Droger Collective has already begun evacuating our core worlds to the far side of the galaxy. The Meldari flotilla will also retreat," announced one of the jellyfish beings. "We have survived by fleeing for 11 generations." One by one, representatives announced their plans to abandon the region of space that included Earth. Ben clenched his fists as Olivia listened in growing dismay. "You're all running?" she finally asked. "After centuries of being hunted by this thing." The turtle alien's shell plates shifted in what might have been a shrug. "The Void consumes all energy it encounters. Fighting only makes it stronger." Olivia exchanged glances with Ben, who nodded encouragingly. They had prepared for this possibility. "Earth proposes an alternative," she said firmly. "We fight together." "Impossible," snapped a reptilian being. "The Void has destroyed civilizations far more advanced than yours." "Because they fought alone," Ben stepped forward, "or because they retreated slowly, sacrificing outer colonies one by one." He activated his own data pad, showing battle simulations. In warfare, troops falling back in disorder are at their most vulnerable. But Earth's history shows that sometimes the only way out is through. A coordinated attack with combined forces might succeed where individual efforts failed. Skeptical murmurs filled the chamber. A small furry being with 6 eyes spoke up. "Your species has never even encountered the Void. You don't understand what you face." "True," Olivia conceded, "but that's why we need your knowledge combined with our fresh perspective. The Void expects retreat because that's all it's ever faced." Ambassador Zalthan floated forward. "The humans have a point. In all our records, no unified defense has ever been attempted." "Because it would fail," shouted someone from the back. Olivia raised her hand for silence. When she spoke again, her voice rang with quiet determination. "Maybe. But Earth cannot retreat. We have one world, not sprawling colonies. We will stand and fight regardless of your decision. But we believe that together, we might do more than survive. We might end this threat forever." The chamber erupted in argument. Some dismissed the humans as naive youngsters. Others seemed thoughtful, considering the radical proposal. As the debate raged, 3 species representatives approached the Earth delegation. Then 5 more. By the session's end, 8 alien civilizations had pledged their forces to Earth's coalition. It wasn't the entire conclave, but it was a beginning. The first Allied fleet against the Void would sail within a month. Admiral Daniel Rodriguez stood motionless on the bridge of the UES Defender, Earth's newest flagship. The massive view screen showed only stars and the blackness between them, yet every person on the bridge stared at it with tight expressions. Scout Ship Falcon reports contact at the outer defense perimeter, announced the communications officer. Transmitting visual data now. The screen flickered, then displayed footage from the small ship patrolling Neptune's orbit. At first, nothing seemed unusual, just the normal starfield. Then Rodriguez noticed it, a patch where stars simply vanished. Not blocked, not dimmed. Gone, as if that section of space had been erased. The void, he whispered. Years of preparation, and still the sight sent ice through his veins. The darkness moved, spreading like spilled ink across the stars. Alert all Allied vessels, Rodriguez ordered. Defensive Formation Alpha. Prepare to engage according to protocol. Across the solar system, 43 ships of the Coalition fleet moved into position. Human vessels with their bulky armor and powerful engines. Zalfar ships, sleek and nimble. The crystalline structures of Meldari craft that seemed impossibly delicate. Each had been retrofitted with the experimental anti-energy weapons. Admiral, Scout Ship Falcon is not responding to communication attempts, reported the officer. Last telemetry showed their power systems fluctuating. Rodriguez's jaw tightened. Deploy the first defense wave. 5 unmanned drones accelerated toward the advancing darkness. Each carried a conventional warhead, a test to gauge the void's reaction. The bridge crew watched in silence as the drones approached their target. When they reached the edge of the darkness, all 5 disappeared from sensors simultaneously. No detonations detected, reported the weapons officer. They're just gone. Second wave, Rodriguez ordered. Anti-energy protocols. 3 larger drones, each equipped with the experimental weapons, launched toward the void. The first drone fired its weapon before reaching the darkness. A beam of swirling energy struck the edge of the void. And for a moment, where it hit, stars became visible again. A cheer went up from the crew. The celebration died as the void seemed to pulse. A tendril of absolute darkness extended with impossible speed, engulfing all 3 drones. Power signatures from all Coalition vessels in the outer defense perimeter are dropping, called out the sensor officer, voice rising in alarm. The void is pulling energy from them even at this distance. Through the next hours, Rodriguez watched in growing horror as the void moved methodically through the first line of defense. Ships maneuvered desperately, firing their weapons with minimal effect. A Zalfar cruiser vanished completely. 2 Earth vessels managed to retreat, their crews reporting systems failures and life support barely functioning. Order all vessels to fall back to Mars orbit, Rodriguez finally commanded. We need to regroup. The remaining ships gathered at the rally point, captains reporting similar experiences. The weapons had affected the void, but only momentarily, and the cost had been devastating. Nearly a third of the fleet lost in the first engagement. In the emergency council that followed, alien allies argued for immediate retreat. This was your plan, human, hissed the Dresh commander, scales flaring in anger. Fight together and die together. We've learned valuable information, Rodriguez countered. The anti-energy weapons do have an effect. We just need to refine our approach. As the debate continued, a junior officer approached with a datapad. Admiral, analysis of the void's movement patterns, sir. Rodriguez studied the information, then looked up with new intensity. It's not moving randomly. There's a pattern here. He projected the data for all to see. It's following energy signatures, moving toward the highest concentrations. Like a predator following the scent of prey, murmured a Vosh commander. Rodriguez nodded slowly, a dangerous plan forming. Then we need to set a trap, and I know just the bait. He pointed to the colony on Proxima Centauri IV, humanity's first extrasolar settlement. We make it irresistible. Sophia Williams wiped sweat from her brow as she examined the massive engine assembly. The workshop buzzed with activity, humans and aliens working side by side. creating technology never before seen on Earth. The power coupling still overheats after 60 seconds, she said, pointing to the glowing section of the prototype. Dr. Nathan Patel nodded, his fingers flying across a holographic display. The Meldari crystal matrix can't handle the energy flow from our fusion reactors. A floating jellyfish-like Meldari engineer drifted closer, its tentacles manipulating tools with surprising precision. Perhaps because you generate power like setting a forest fire to boil water, it commented through its translator. Nathan laughed. And your crystals are too delicate. But together, he reached for a schematic created by the Devours scientists. What if we used their dampening technology as a buffer? For 3 months, Earth had become the center of the most remarkable technological revolution in human history. The coalition's shipyards orbited the moon, constructing vessels that incorporated the best designs from 8 different species. Research facilities around the planet hosted alien scientists working alongside Earth's brightest minds. In her 6 years as an engineer, Sophia had never faced challenges like this, but she had also never experienced such breakthroughs. The problem is fundamental, she explained during the daily command briefing. Admiral Rodriguez and representatives from each allied species watched as she displayed the test results. The void absorbs energy. All our weapons, lasers, plasma, even kinetic projectiles, ultimately deliver energy to the target. We're essentially feeding the enemy. A Zalfar scientist named Kervosh raised one of his 4 hands. Our ancestors tried creating energy dead zones, areas where all energy was already depleted. The void simply went around them. What about anti-energy? Asked Nathan, who had been unusually quiet during the meeting. All eyes turned to the physicist. Theoretical, scoffed a reptilian Dresch scientist. Even our civilization hasn't mastered antimatter manipulation on a weapons scale. Nathan smiled. Earth has. He pulled up classified files from Earth's military research. We've been working on antimatter containment since we learned about the void. Small scale, but the principles are sound. The revelation caused an uproar. Some aliens were shocked that such a young species had already developed technology their civilizations considered centuries away. Others worried about the destructive potential. The void consumes positive energy, Nathan continued when order was restored. But what happens when it encounters its opposite? At minimum, it creates a disruption. At best, annihilation, whispered Admiral Rodriguez. Can you build this into a weapons system? With help, Nathan nodded toward the alien scientists. Each of your species understands aspects of physics we're still learning. Together, we might create something the void has never encountered. The next weeks brought new challenges. Mixed species teams trained together despite vastly different physiologies and combat doctrines. Communication systems had to be redesigned to accommodate beings who spoke with colors or electrical impulses. Sophia often worked 20-hour days, collapsing into sleep only when her body demanded it. The antimatter project progressed rapidly, but tests frequently ended in spectacular failures. Another containment breach, she reported after one particularly violent explosion. We lost the entire test chamber. Nathan examined the data, his expression grim. We're missing something fundamental about how to stabilize the reaction. It was a Meldari engineer who provided the breakthrough, suggesting their crystalline technology could create quantum-locked chambers that existed partially outside normal spacetime. Combined with Vosh dampening fields and Earth's fusion technology, it created the first stable prototype. The day the weapon successfully fired without destabilizing, shears erupted across all 8 species. That night, as the Allied fleet took shape in orbit, Sophia stood at a viewport watching the construction. Will it be enough? She asked quietly. Nathan joined her, his eyes on the stars where the void approached. It has to be. Colonel Samantha Wright watched orange skies darken over Proxima Centauri IV as the evacuation ships launched in steady streams. The colony's main plaza, usually bustling with 15,000 residents, now stood nearly empty. Only military personnel remained, moving with practiced urgency. Civilian evacuation at 87%, reported her second-in-command through the comm. Estimated completion in 40 minutes. Not good enough, Samantha replied, scanning the horizon where strange shadows gathered. The void is approaching faster than predicted. Tell them they have 20 minutes. She had volunteered her unit for this mission, knowing it might be their last. Someone had to ensure the civilians escaped while preparing the trap. The Coalition's plan hinged on making this colony appear irresistible to the void, a beacon of concentrated energy that the entity couldn't resist. Generator complex is at 120% capacity, called a technician. Shields are fluctuating under the load. Samantha nodded. Keep them running hot. We need the void to sense all that energy. In the command center beneath the colony's main buildings, humans worked alongside aliens in a race against time. Zalthar engineers fine-tuned massive antimatter containment chambers. Meldari specialists adjusted crystalline arrays that would focus the explosion. Vosh scientists monitored the approaching darkness through specialized sensors. A blue-skinned Zalthar approached Samantha, his 4 arms carrying various pieces of equipment. Colonel, the final trigger mechanisms are in place. Once activated, we have 3 minutes to reach minimum safe distance. Understood. Samantha checked her tactical display. Has your evacuation shuttle departed? I chose to remain with the ground team, the alien replied simply. Samantha met his multifaceted eyes with respect. Thank you, Kernak. I won't forget this. Outside, the strange darkness spread across the landscape like an oil slick. Plants withered as it passed. Equipment failed. The temperature dropped precipitously. Last civilian ship away, announced the communications officer. Begin final countdown, Samantha ordered. All personnel to evacuation points. The remaining soldiers moved quickly to their assigned shuttles. The trap was elegant in its simplicity. Allow the void to approach the colony's power core, then trigger the specialized antimatter explosion when it was fully committed to feeding. Colonel, called a sensor technician, the void is accelerating toward the main generator complex. It took the bait, Samantha replied. Evacuation teams. Immediate departure. That's an order. As soldiers rushed to obey, Samantha's comm crackled with static. Colonel, we have a problem. Shuttle 4 has power fluctuations. Can't get the engine started. Samantha checked the manifest. 23 people on that shuttle, including some of the alien scientists essential to the Coalition's weapons development. How long to fix it? She asked. Unknown. The void's proximity is affecting all systems. Samantha made her decision instantly. Everyone from Shuttle 4, report to the command center. You'll evacuate with my team. Her pilot's voice came through, concerned. Colonel, that exceeds our shuttle's capacity by 7 people. Then I'll stay behind with 6 volunteers to manually trigger the device, she replied. The rest of you get those scientists out of here. Before her officers could protest, Samantha removed her comm device. She looked at Kernak. I need 6 volunteers to help ensure this trap works. The Zalthar didn't hesitate. I will stay. 5 others joined them, 3 humans and 2 Vosh. Together they made final adjustments to the antimatter device while the last shuttles departed. From the command center, Samantha watched the void engulf the colony's outer buildings. Systems failed throughout the complex as the darkness approached. 1 minute until optimal detonation point, reported a Vosh scientist, his wooden skin creaking as he worked the controls. The lights flickered and died. Emergency power activated, then failed seconds later. In the darkness, Samantha felt an unnatural cold seeping into her bones. Now, whispered the scientist. Samantha pressed her hand against the manual trigger. As the void consumed the command center, the antimatter device detonated. The explosion tore through space-time itself. For the first time in recorded history, the void retreated, wounded by the perfect convergence of multiple species technologies and the sacrifice of those who stayed behind. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, his face illuminated by the tactical displays surrounding him. The Coalition fleet had assembled for humanity's last stand. 157 ships from 8 species, arranged in formation between Earth and the approaching darkness. "The void has changed since Proxima," reported Maya Chen, now commanding her own vessel. "It moves more cautiously, almost as if it's wounded." Or angry, Jack Wilson added from the flagship's weapons station. He had insisted on joining the final battle despite being offered command of the evacuation fleet. The antimatter trap heard it, but not enough. The void had recovered from the Proxima explosion and resumed its advance toward Earth. It moved differently now, faster, more purposeful, less like a mindless predator, and more like an intelligent hunter. Dr. Nathan Pottle entered the bridge, his usually neat appearance disheveled from days without sleep. "Admiral, the weapon is ready." "The eternal flame actually works?" Rodriguez asked, hope creeping into his voice for the first time in weeks. "In theory," Nathan replied. "We've combined the antimatter technology from Proxima with new insights from the Meldari crystalline matrices. Instead of a single explosion, this creates a self-sustaining reaction, a tear in reality that generates anti-energy perpetually." "A wound that never heals," murmured Jack. Nathan nodded grimly. "But deploying it requires precise positioning. The device must be placed at the exact center of the void and activated manually." Silence fell across the bridge as the implications sank in. "I'll do it," Olivia Rice said, stepping forward. The diplomat had become a key military strategist in the months since forming the coalition. "I can pilot the delivery vessel." "We'll need more than one," Nathan said quietly. "The void will sense the threat. We need to create multiple targets to ensure at least one reaches the center." Within hours, 12 small vessels prepared for the mission, each carrying the duplicate of the device, though only one contained the real eternal flame technology. The others were decoys, designed to confuse the void. Ben Garcia, Olivia Rice, Jack Wilson, and 9 other volunteers said their goodbyes. Maya embraced Jack briefly before returning to her command. "Good hunting," Rodriguez told them. "The fleet will engage the void to create openings for your approach." The battle began with terrible fury. Coalition ships fired specialized weapons into the darkness, temporarily creating patches where stars became visible again. The void responded by sending tendrils of nothingness toward the fleet, draining ships of power when they connected. Through this chaos, the 12 small vessels darted toward the heart of darkness. The void seemed to sense their importance, focusing its attention on them. One by one, the ships vanished from sensors, 5 gone in the first minute, 3 more in the next. "Garcia's ship is still advancing," reported the sensor officer. "Wilson and Rice as well. They're approaching the calculated center point." Then Ben's signal disappeared. Jack's vessel took a hit but continued its desperate journey. "Rice has reached the deployment zone," someone shouted. Inside her small ship, Olivia's hands flew across the controls as systems failed around her. The cold of the void seeped through the hull, freezing her breath in the air. The eternal flame device hummed before her, its countdown engaged. "For Earth," she whispered as darkness filled her vision. The device activated. On the Defender's bridge, Rodriguez watched as a pinpoint of brilliant light appeared in the center of the void. The light expanded, not in an explosion, but in a steady, perpetual glow that pushed back the darkness. The void convulsed. Tendrils of nothingness whipped violently, then began to retreat. Not destroyed, but severely wounded, the cosmic predator fled from the light that burned at its core. 3 weeks later, representatives of all allied species gathered on Earth to honor the fallen. The Galactic Conclave, once ready to abandon this region of space, now looked to humanity with new respect. "In recognition of your species' courage," announced the High Counselor, "the Conclave names humanity as the Eternal Flame, the defenders who stand against the darkness." A new message was broadcast to the stars, carrying words that would echo across the galaxy for generations. "The children of Earth stand vigilant. We are the warning light that signals the void's doom." We are the flame that cannot be extinguished. 5 years had passed since the void retreated from Earth's solar system. Humanity had changed forever. Once confined to a single world, humans now walked on dozens of planets across the galaxy, welcomed as honored allies by civilizations thousands of years older than their own. Sophia Williams stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, the massive space habitat orbiting Jupiter that served as headquarters for the new Galactic Defense Force. Below her, ships from 23 species docked and departed in carefully choreographed patterns. "Still admiring your handiwork?" asked a familiar voice. Sophia turned to see Admiral Rodriguez approaching. He looked older now, silver streaking his once dark hair, but he stood as straight as ever. "Just thinking about how far we've come," she replied. 5 years ago, we were desperately trying to save Earth. Now we're building ships that can cross the galaxy in weeks. Rodriguez nodded. The Meldari crystal drive combined with our fusion technology. Neither species could have created it alone. That was the legacy of the war. Not just victory, but unprecedented cooperation. Species that had feared or avoided each other for millennia now worked together, sharing knowledge and resources. Earth had become the unlikely center of this new alliance. "The memorial ceremony begins in an hour," Rodriguez reminded her gently. Today marked the anniversary of the final battle. Across Earth and the colonies, people would pause to remember those who gave their lives to deploy the eternal flame device, the weapon that continued to burn at the edge of known space, a perpetual warning to the void. "I'll be there," Sophia promised. After Rodriguez left, she returned to her quarters to change into her formal uniform. A chime announced a visitor, Dr. Nathan Patel, now head of the Unified Sciences Division. "I thought you might want to see this before the ceremony," he said, handing her a datapad. Sophia reviewed the information, her eyes widening. "You confirmed it. The void is still retreating." Nathan nodded. Long-range probes tracked it moving toward the galactic rim. "More importantly, we've decoded more of the ancient records from the Zalfar archives." He showed her translations of manuscripts dating back thousands of years. The void has appeared every few millennia. Each time, civilizations fled or fought alone and failed. But there are references to something called the cycle of flames, suggesting this may have happened before. Other species created eternal flames. Sophia asked. "Perhaps, but they didn't last. The records suggest each flame eventually burned out, allowing the void to return." The implications were clear. Humanity's victory might be temporary. Their eternal flame, like those before it, could someday fail. When they arrived at the memorial ceremony, representatives from all allied species had gathered. At the center stood a monument bearing the names of those lost at Proxima and in the final battle. Olivia Reyes, Jack Wilson, Ben Garcia, Samantha Wright, thousands more. As Admiral Rodriguez addressed the assembly, Sophia leaned toward Nathan. "If the void returns, what will we do?" Nathan smiled slightly. "We'll be ready. The coalition grows stronger every day. New weapons, better defenses, and more importantly," he gestured at the diverse gathering, "we stand together now." After the ceremony, Sophia visited the shipyards where the newest vessels took shape. Unlike Earth's first desperate warships, these were built with knowledge from a dozen worlds. Sleeker, faster, more powerful. Among them rose the flagship of the new fleet, a massive vessel unlike any before it. Workers from all coalition species swarmed around its gleaming hull. "What will they name it?" asked a young Zalfar engineer working beside her. Sophia looked up at the ship that represented humanity's new place in the galaxy, not just survivors, but protectors. "Phoenix," she replied. "Because if the void ever returns, we'll rise again to meet it. That's the promise we make to the galaxy." The engineer nodded solemnly. The eternal flame that burns twice as bright. From struggling newcomers to respected defenders, humanity had found its purpose among the stars. The warning they broadcast to the galaxy was no longer just about the void's threat. It was a promise of protection, a declaration that some flames refuse to be extinguished, no matter how vast the darkness.